And hello, and welcome to Tips and Tools for Sunday School, where we're training teachers and building programs for life transformation. And I'm your host, Coach Patty. Thanks again for joining us here in our Sunday School community. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Come back for our content on Tuesdays and Thursdays for our tip. And now we are doing our home daily Bible readings, and we're going to do Wednesday. Our lesson is Giving in Love, 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 7. And this is for lesson 13. A community shares its resources. The main text is in 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 14. So I'm going to read the Bible scripture and then give you a few little highlights about it and to help you as you are studying your lesson on this week. Chapter 13 says, Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself up, is not puffed up. It does not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. Verse 7, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, and endureth all things. The word of the Lord is already blessed. So here we are in 1 Corinthians. Now our main text is in 2 Corinthians. So this is the first letter that he wrote to them. Now, there is some commentary that there were up to 4 letters that Paul wrote to the Corinthian church, but these are the 2 that made it into our canon. So the letter in 1 Corinthians is the letter he wrote to address all of these issues that this church was having. I mean, Corinth just was having issues from one side to the other, and now he's in this section where he's addressing the misuse of their spiritual gifts. So chapters 12, 13, and 14 kind of run together, right? 1 Corinthians 12 is listing the spiritual gifts. Chapter 13 talks about the motivation of the gifts, which is to operate in love. And then chapter 14 speaks the order in which those gifts should be operating inside of a church. All right, so he's talking to them. Now, the Corinthian church was having all these troubles with their spiritual gifts, specifically tongues, prophecy, and knowledge. Those particular 3. It also talks about faith, and it also talks about giving. And so they were comparing themselves to each other. They were saying that my gift is more important than your gift. They were pushing some gifts aside and puffing up some other gifts. And Paul is writing this chapter, and most of us have romanticized this chapter now. Oh, this love, called the love chapter. But Paul is writing to address the issues that this church is having. He's letting them know that though you have tongues and prophecies and faith, and you can move mountains, if you're operating without love, it doesn't mean a thing. And so that's what he's telling. He said it's worthless if you are not operating in love, because when you have the spiritual gifts and they operate, they should be edifying the church. They should be building the church up. They should not be tearing the church apart. And so in speaking to this Corinthian church about operating in love, Paul then begins to talk to us. Part of what he was talking about was giving. He says, if I give my body to be burned, if I bestow all my goods to feed the poor and have not charity, it profit me nothing. And so now we're talking about a community that shares its resources. Paul said, if you're not giving your resources out of love, then it's not going to profit you anything to give it. It's just going to be you making a donation. It's not going to be you giving in love. It's not going to be you operating in this spiritual gifting. So love should always be the motivation behind everything that we do for others and what we do for God. When we give in love, we look like Christ and demonstrate God's love in the world. All else will fail and pass away. He says at the end of the chapter, faith, hope, and love, they all abide, but all those others will fail. The greatest of these is love, because God is love. At the basis of everything that God did for us is because he loved us. He sent his son because he loved us. His son gave his life because he loved us. And when we give of our resources and when we give to the poor, when we bestow our gifts, we do it out of love. Paul also lets them know that when you operate your gifts out of love, it's a sign of maturity. As we operate in unity and allow the diversity of the gifts to operate. All right. Well, that's our lesson for today. Hopefully you go back and read 1 Corinthians 13 again and give some thoughts and some notes around this and how it applies to a community that shares its resources. So thanks for joining us here at Tips and Tools for Sunday School, where we are training teachers, building programs for life transformation. And as I always say, I'll see you next time.